Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Professor Cisco, and I'm reaching out to the student. Okay, so I decided to do another lab this morning. It's a beautiful morning, the sun is shining, and I decided to go into doing me another lab. And this lab I like, it's really interesting because this particular lab is going to teach you how to use another tool. Students, I want you to remember, all you're doing right now is learning how to utilize different types of tools that will help you in the work world. For this particular tool, it may seem like it's basic, but it's very useful. This is working with text files in the CLI. Now, text files are critically important. Okay, so let's go over here and check out the content. So things that really important that you need to get on top of is graphical text editors, command line text editors, and working with configuration files. Now remember, graphical and command line, these are two types of text editors that you can use, okay? But don't get sold on what's the best text editor. Get sold on, I want to find one that's helpful for me. Now I'm going to skim through this right here because you can see it. You can stop the video and read it. But it says here, before you work with text files in Linux, you must be familiar with text editors. Now I know you're saying Linux. Yes, Linux. Linux is another operating system that you want to use. Remember, the first part of this course was dealing with the Windows operating system. Now we're going to deal with the Linux operating system for these next particular labs. Okay, so text editors are one of the oldest categories of applications created for computers. Now, without reading all of this, just know that we have a multitude of text editors out there. And if you really need to know what a text editor is, remember the best text editor out there right now is Microsoft Word. It's a graphical user text editor. So we use that to create documents and so many things with it. The cybersecurity realm, we use text editors to edit files, to change files, and etc., etc., etc. Now, if you're a programmer, you already know you have specialized text editors. It says here, some text editors focus on the programmer and include features such as syntax highlighting, bracket matching, find and replace. So these text editors on a high end, and they do some specialized stuff. But this is what you want to take away from this whole lab. The choice of text editors is a personal choice. What's good for you may not be good for me. Choose one that works for you and stick with it. And then if you find something better, go for it. You know, some people try to sell you on the idea, you should use this text editor because it's outstanding. What they don't tell you is this: it's a learning curve. And that learning curve will take up time from you doing your work. So choose the best text editor for you and work with it. But start off with the simple ones. Now right here, we got a text editor called Cite, right? I mean, it's a simple, really simple core text editor, and you just want to work with it. Okay, so let's go ahead and open that up. I'm gonna go over here to the file, give it a minute, and then it says, let's go back to that particular document. Okay, before I start, let me give you a brief overview of this here. This is the Linux setup. You see right here, if you click on application, it's like a file menu that comes out for you. You have only a few files on the desktop. You got a menu down here, but we're going to learn about Linux in here also. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to click on applications, and from applications, I'm going to go down here to CyberOps. And from CyberOps, I'm going to pull out that text editor that is called Cite. And there's the text editor. I'm going to type in a few words. Well, I'm going to type in one word, and I'm going to save that file, and I'm going to say save as, because I want to save that file onto the desktop. So I'm going to click on save. And once I click save, I'm going to actually name the file. As you can see, the file is inside of a directory called analyst. So we're going to go ahead and just name it the name that we want it to be. Now, this is really, really basic stuff here. I'm just saving a file on the desktop. That's all I'm doing. So I got the name of the file called space, and I'm just going to click save. That's it. We just saved the file. Let's go back over and look at the content and see what we did. So we went through here. We opened the file up. We wanted to type in some documentation. I didn't type that in. I just typed in some brief. And then we put the file name in here. And now we're going to close that document. Okay. So I'm going to come right back over here and close that document. Okay. So we closed the file. Now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to search for that file. It says here, we close the file by clicking X. Now it says, click file open and search for the file. Could you immediately find the file? Now I'm not going to answer the question. I'm just going to go over here and we're going to take a look. So we're going to go back to the application. Yes, indeed, CyberOps. And we're going to hit the file. And then we're going to go to file. And we're going to go down to open. Okay. Now, can I immediately see that file? Because you're going to answer that question. I'm not going to answer it for you, even though it's so obvious. So let's go back. So we're going to move on down. I'm going to let you answer that question. Even though site is looking at the current directory, which is this here, it is not displayed. Okay, so they answered it for you. Okay, whatever. Even though you already knew. This is because site is looking for known extensions. Okay, this .txt is not one of them. So now it says here to display all files, click the drop down menu at the bottom of the open file window and click all files. So let's go back there. And this is just walking you through how to do this. So it wants you to click the drop down menu and say all files. Okay. Now can you see the file? Of course, Professor, of course. I can see the file, even though it's taking me forever. And there go the file right there. Right there at the bottom. Okay, so now that we open the file, it says selected open. So let's go ahead and open it up. Okay. And there go our file. So that's just a simple way of learning a text editor and how to use it. Now I know you're saying, how's that going to be important, Professor? Why are we learning this? Trust me, it's a tool in your tool belt. Okay? Don't worry. It says, while the Linux file system do not rely on extensions, some applications such as Cite may attempt to use them to identify file types. Close the file and for finish. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close. Okay, so now we're going to go into the second part of this. We created a document inside of a text editor, but we now want to use a command line text editor. Okay, so we want to go use a command line text editor. I got some stuff going on over here. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. But now we want to use a command line text editor. It says, while graphical text editors are convenient and easy to use, command line based text editors are very important in Linux computers. That's why we're introducing this to you, just to get you prepared to use text editors inside of the command line. Okay, and you see it right here. It says, consider the following scenario. A user must perform administrative tasks on a Linux computer, but is not sitting in front of the computer. So you'll SSH into the computer and you'll begin to use a text editor inside of that particular computer. Okay, you can read the rest of it. I'm just giving it to you in a nutshell. It says this is mainly true when connecting remotely. Okay, so it says here the workstation VM includes a few command line based text editors. So you'll have multiple in there. The one we're going to use in here is called Nino. They have V or Vi. It's a very important one that a lot of people use, but just if you stay with Nino, that's cool too. It works perfectly. Remember, you're not getting caught up on this. So let's go ahead and do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is simply come here to the application and open up, once again, the text editor. Now, in the process of opening this text editor, it actually wants me to go to the command line and type in Nino. So I'm going to go in here, and what this will do is just activate the command line text editor that's inside of your system. I'm getting a little crazy with these zeros. I don't know why. Let me make sure I'm choosing the right thing. I am going to type in Nino and go ahead and get this up and going. And I'm making some mistakes here, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll get it. This is a command line text editor, and it opened it up for you to be able to do your work right here. It says Nino will launch and automatically load space ... in there. So it did that. It automatically loaded that in there. Now, you didn't see anything in there because I didn't put nothing in that particular file, but it loaded that file. Now, what this basically gonna do is teach you how to move around in it. You can click home, you can click edit, whatever. You can add other text information inside of it. So you basically is just using this the same way you did the way you used the previous one. You just basically gonna put some text in here, and I'm just gonna type in text to have fun. And if I want to go back to the beginning, I can hit my home key, or I can type home, use the home or an in keyboard key. So I can go to my keyboard, which you can't see it here. I could put one up here, but I'm not gonna do that. I can just go ahead and hit home and then go back home. And these are keys already on your keyboard for you to be able to use. I can use my arrow keys to move back. I can use, so now you may think that this is trivial and a little bit of too much work, but this is a very important tool because I may want to write a simple little script, and writing that script will get me around the way I want to. You just see me hit home, then you see me hit it. So basically that's what this is teaching you how to do, how to work with a command line text editor inside of actual Linux. Okay, now I can close out by simply clicking the X. It's going to ask me, do I want to save the document? I can say close, do not ask me again, or whatever. So I'm going to say close because I don't want to save it, even though it may have me use it again. But that's how you work around the Linux environment. And it's really good. You're going to need it, so you might as well get into learning the Linux commands. Okay, but for right now, just understand this particular section, these labs and these chapters that's teaching you Linux, because that's all you need right now. Remember, we're building your tool set. At the completion of this course, you're going to have a lot of more tools to work with. Okay, so with that, that was really simple. Let's get ready to go to part 3 and close this out. I'm going to let you go ahead and read through the rest of this and let you take a look at it, read through the rest of it, and from there, you can go ahead and complete the rest of it. It's just showing you how to use the tools what's inside of Nino. And remember, Nino comes with every Linux version. Sometimes you may have to go get a package and upload it in there, but for the most part, you shouldn't have to do that, basically, for Nino. But if you want one of them super duper text editors, command line text editors, yes, indeed, you will have to go get a package and upload it. And don't worry, if you take my Linux class, I'm going to teach you how to do that too. Okay, So let's stop right here. Okay, we're on the last part of this lab. Now, the last part, of course, we know that it's simply talking about configuring or modifying or changing a configuration file. Now, this is critical when you work in the IT world. You will have to go in there and modify files depending on your skill set. And that's what we want to do. We want to get you skilled up. And that's what Linux is very good at helping us do. Linux is a premier program, operating system. So you definitely going to have to learn it. But for now, this is all you need to know. Now let's go ahead and close out this lab with knocking this out. As you can see here, it says here, in Linux, everything is treated as a file. That's one thing I want you to walk away with. See, in Microsoft, Windows, everything is not treated as a file. But in Linux, everything is a file, including memory, the disk, the monitor, output, and a directory. From the operating system standpoint, everything is a file. It should be no surprise that the system itself is configured through files. So we want to configure these files. Now, I'm not going to sit here and read everything to you. I know you can read on your own, but I just wanted you to grasp that concept. Everything is considered a file, and you can modify and change. It says here, when you get here, it says users with proper permission levels use text editor to change the contents of such configuration files. That means you have to be an administrator, but even if you're an administrator, you have to have the proper credentials, meaning a proper permission. You know how I was saying in Windows, you had to be careful with a certain file set, didn't want you to mess with those files. I'm going to let you draw back and realize what I was talking about. But in Linux, you can go and actually modify them files if you had a proper skill set. So let's go over here and take a look at it. Okay, we're going to log in. Now that we log inside of here, let's go ahead and start making changes. So the first thing you're going to notice is that you're going to be introduced to a couple of commands. Lock these commands in. These are your basic commands, and you should know them for Linux. So I'm going to come here, and I'm just going to simply type in the first command. And it's ls. ls stands for list directory, list files. That's what ls stands for. So it gives you a certain file order right there. Don't get caught up on how many files it is. Just know that it's showing you the directories that's in there as of now. If you want to change it so you can see all of the files, even the hidden files, the first thing you want to do is go ls again, and then go -la. And that shows you hidden files, the files that you cannot see, that you want to be able to look at. Let me blow this screen up. Want to be able to look at so you can modify it. And you see these bash files in here, okay? Now, so that's just basically giving you that. Let's go over here and take a look at the content again. So we went in here and modified the files so we can see all the hidden files, okay? Remember, the hidden files. Okay, now that we have all that information, we learned two commands. We learned ls-l, and then we learned ls-la to see the hidden files. Now it says use cat command to display the contents of this file. So whenever you want to display the contents of a file, cat command. So let's go over here and do it. Okay, that's important. So now I'm going to go ahead and log in with the cat command. So let me make sure I got it chosen. cat.bashrc. Hit enter. And that go to the contents of that file. Now, if this was a Word doc, it'll open up in Microsoft Word and you'll see this in there. That's the content of that file. It's not looking pretty, but this is how we work when we're working on Linux operating systems, and we can see files quickly. We can see the content of the files that we are trying to work with. Okay, so the next thing it wants us to do, and you can see that right here. The next thing it wants us to do, let's pull this down. I'm not going to read you all the verbiage, but just know that I'm following the paths that's right for it. Okay. Okay, and now we want to say, wow, configuration files related to user applications are conventionally placed under the user's home directory. You can pretty much go everywhere and find different files here. I'm not going to read it all verbatim, so let's just go in here. I know you get the understanding of it, and plus it's right in front of your face. You can actually read it yourself. Okay, so now we're going to hit this. We type that in, and it laid the files out, but it's showing them in a different color now. If you remember earlier, let's go back right quick. If I go back here, and because this is a document, you can't see the different colors, but you see right here, they was listed like this, showing the permissions to the files and all that. Well, we want to show it just like this, but now we looking at which files we can actually open up and do some work. And we'll say this in here. It says configuration files relating to system-wide services are placed in the /extra directory by convention. Web servers, print servers, file servers, etc., etc. This is where you go get all of those files at. And you can see them listed here. Excellent. So use the cat command to display the contents of the bash rc file. So that's what we want to do now. We want to go to the next level since we got it listed there, and we want to follow this command. So let's go ahead and do that. So I want you, what is your takeaway? I know you're saying, Professor, you're moving fast. What's going on? What is your takeaway? Your takeaway is now you can go in here and edit and modify and make changes to the files. That's all we're showing you right now is how to modify and make changes to these files. Now here's a file that opened up, and I can go into this particular file and make changes to it if I want to. You can see it's all laid out. So someone, a programmer, or maybe a system administrator decided to write this information in here for this particular file to do a particular service. And that's what this administrator did, okay? And he outlined it, he or she, excuse me, outlined it to make it look presentable, okay? So you probably saying, it looks like a bunch of rubbish to me. So now we want to do this here. It says editing and saving configurations files. So we're going to make some minor changes in editing in this particular file. So I'm going to walk through this process and you just take a look at what I'm doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the text editor. I'm going to go up here to applications. I'm going to go down, applications. I'm going to go down here to here. I'm going to open up this text editor right here. My system seems to be moving a little slow for a reason. I don't know what's going on with that. And then I'm going to go to open. Now, once I get to open, I don't see the file that I want. It wants me to get that .bash rc. I don't see it, but I can come here and say all files. And there's other ways I could have did that, but I'm going to go right there. And then I'm actually going to either go up right here, and there go the file I'm looking for. I'm going to open that file up, and you see this basic information in here, right? Let's go back and see if I got the right file. And I do. I'm going to change this a little. I'm going to change it from maybe a 1 to a 2, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see what it wants me to change it to. I'm going to bring it up just a little. Yeah, it wants me to take it from a 31 to a 32. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change. Now that I'm in the file, since it's a text editor, I can just click right there and backspace and put a 31 in there, okay? It looked like it was 32 in there. I just changed it to a 31. It wanted me to change it from a 31 to a 32, so I'm just doing reverse. There you go. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close the file. I'm going to go File, Save first, because I want to save my changes. Then I'm going to close it. Then I closed that file. I made the changes. You see right here that the file now, it says here, click the terminal application icon on the dock. So I'm going to click this. Now this is green. Let's see what it changed to. Red. Now you see that it changed to red. So that's how you can change the system. Make modifications and changes to your system. Now that was some small people. But when you're working in a cyber ops world, depending on your permissions, you may want to make major changes or have to make major changes. Let me change that. You don't want to make major changes. You may have to make major changes. What I'm talking about, you're going to go in there and just start changing things up. No. Okay. So anyway, that was really simple there. Okay. So we're going to move down and we're going to continue on with this. So we got that done. It's another file they want to open, but this time we're going to do it from command prompt. So I'm actually going to go right here and open up Nino, because Nino going to let me make changes from the command prompt. So what's the takeaway, Professor? The takeaway is this. I'm learning how to make modifications from a text editor. If you prefer to do it from the text editor, that's cool. And I'm learning how to make modification from the command line text, the command line editor. So you learning how to do it both ways. This way you'll be remotely doing it. The other way you'll be probably right there in the office doing it. So in this one here, we're just going to make some modifications to it. It says here, change 31 to 33. So in this case, now I got to use my arrow keys. I just can't use, and when I'm talking about arrow keys, I'm talking about arrow keys on your keyboard. It's slow, it's cumbersome, but it's okay. It's just slow, people. That's all. I'm going to make that 33. And then I'm going to drop down and make a few more changes. Well, no, I'm just going to make that change right there. I'm going to make that 33. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this by going Control X and then saying yes and hit enter to close it out. And if I decide to take a look at it now, the text editor now, it should change. You see right there. So we got yellow, we got red, we got green. We made changes to, now you may not think, how significant is this? You actually changing a system file. Remember, I told you when we was working in Windows, be careful when you go mess around with particular files. If you got to go back and look at that Windows document to know what I'm talking about, be careful at. But here you are actually making changes to those system files right there. Now, the last thing it wants us to do, and we're going to close this out after this, is make some changes using another text editor. So let's go ahead and use that text editor. But we're going to use the sudo command to make changes with this text editor. You see this right here? But this time we're going to use the sudo command. Now, use the sudo command means that you have escalated yourself to an administrative level and you have privileges to make command. I am just going to close these files because I don't need them. And I'm going to come right here and make it here. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say sudo, okay, space, Nano, Nino, space, dash, L, okay, that's not a 1, that's an L, slash, ETC, slash, NGINX, slash, CUSTOM, custom, underscore, and I'm saying this out loud just so I don't make a mistake, because I've been making a few mistakes in this document. You see right there, made a couple of mistakes. Okay, CONF. And there you go. Hit enter. Everything should work out. Now it's asking me for my password because I'm going to the administrative level. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the password. See if I got that right. And I'm in that particular file. There we go. Now I know I have to use my keys to move around. And here it is. In this particular file, it wants me to make these various changes. I'm going to go to line 39 and then also to line 47 and make changes in that document. This is a system file that I'm making changes in, so it's important that I be careful. That's important, people. Pay attention and be careful because you do not want to mess something up. So let's go to line 39 and hit enter, and I'm just going to put 80. Okay, so we got that in there. And the next line, which is 47, we just want to add something to line 47. You want to take your time. You want to make sure you're doing it right. So you're going to go ahead and type in this information here, and you want to make sure you don't remove that comma. So now I'm going to drop down, and then I'm just going to go Control X. Saving, I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say enter to get up out of there. And then I'm going to type in this command here. Let me go ahead and put sudo to see if the changes actually worked. Let's see. This executes that change that I just made. So that's what I'm doing, making sure that the change is executed right quick. I think I spelled everything right. Let's execute it. Okay, it's been executed. Now I'm going to go to down here at the bottom. I'm going to click on the web browser. And then if everything worked out right, it should tell me congratulations. So I got my web browser up here. And all I'm going to do is put in the IP address. 127. Oh, it's already showing it up for me, so I can scoot over and I can backspace that out and go Shift 80. Okay, so this should work by saying congratulations, and voila. So this ends that particular file. All I had to do was make some modifications to it and go to the web browser and see that I actually executed those changes correctly. That's all I had to do. Now, I'm not going to do sudo pkill. I don't have to do that. I mean, you're going to actually get a chance to do that. And I'm not going to answer the reflection questions. That's your particular job. But you can see doing this is simple and easy with no problems. This is Professor Cisco. I'm going to let you go. Do this document as many times as you can to make sure you know how to master this particular tool. Remember, these are tools, people. We just loading your tool belt up